Paranormal Dimensions is fortnightly on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
It hasn't changed in millions of years. But here we have a clue to an answer.
The instruments here are going crazy.
I think what we've been suspecting all along may already be happening, Doctor.
I'm almost sure of it. Get into your choppers and head north immediately. Don't stop for a thing.
Hello, this is Michael Feely, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Going to be definitely interesting, something you don't want to miss.
Hello and welcome to the show. Welcome to a new season of Paranormal Dimensions. I have to tell you that Paranormal Dimensions will be every 2 weeks now rather than every week. Hopefully it won't upset too many of you. Some of you might even be pleased. Anyway, thank you for that introduction, Michael. And Michael will be back shortly. I've got a double guest bill today with James Welsh and Michael Feely, both discussing really about the ancients. Now, as you know, I've had James Welsh on recently. He had a book out called Corroborating Evidence. And, of course, Michael Feely has had several books out, two of which I've got in front of me, Alchemy of the Gods and The Ancient Code, A Serpent Fire. Now, as you know, or you may not know, Michael is very well known for his decoding very many ancient codes. Now, I was having a chat with James a little while ago. He's told me several things about some work that he's been doing in that direction, and I thought it a really good idea to put the two of them together on this show and see what comes out of it. It does sound very exciting what James has been coming up with, and I'm sure that James and Michael will have a really good conversation about it, and I hope we all get something out of it. I always get something out of the shows, so hopefully you will too, and hopefully they will too. But just before we go into all of that, of course, as always, if you'd like to get in touch with me at any time, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. I've got some great guests coming up. On this occasion, may I introduce Michael Feely and James Welsh. Hello, James and Michael. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How you doing? Welcome.
Hello, James. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I don't believe that Michael and James actually know each other or spoken before, but James meet Michael, Michael meet James.
How you doing?
Hello, James. Sounds like the Waltons, but hello.
Well, I've got to introduce you somehow. Now, Michael, James has been talking to me off here a little bit about. He had a book out a few years back. I was talking about 2015, was it, James?
2014, yeah.
2014, 15, whatever. Yeah. Now, we did a show a couple of months ago, and obviously I've had you on the show as well also, Michael, a couple of shows ago. A few shows back anyway. And I actually thought, when James was telling me about, he believes he's made quite a lot of discoveries about the pyramids. Now, immediately I thought, this would make a great show to have Michael on as well, to actually discuss it. Now, James hasn't told me all of his discoveries as such, but I thought it would be great to maybe listen to what James has discovered and then, or his beliefs in what he has discovered, and then sort of get your viewpoint on it, Michael. How does that sound?
That sounds very good. That's a good. I'm most interested.
Yeah. So there you go, James. If you'd like to kick off and start wherever you'd like to start. I mean, you might like to give Michael a little bit of background as to your book and everything, and also your other little discoveries about the space station and everything. I'll just sit back and listen to you.
Sit back and enjoy the popcorn.
There you go. Off you go.
Well, about myself, I've always been fascinated with Egypt ever since I was a wee kid. I was totally, loved the place. I actually went to Egypt for the millennium after having a dream directly after a UFO encounter. Subsequently, I've been to Egypt 3 times now, and I was actually fortunate enough to give a tour around the Great Pyramid the last time I was in Egypt. Sorry, second time I was in Egypt. I gave a tour around the Great Pyramid, and I also gave a tour around the Oxford Museum, which was unexpected. I just had people following me, basically, and I was talking, so that was quite good. But this year, I went back and I've made some interesting discoveries, but I'm not sure how many of them are legit, but some of them are quite eye-opening. But I know for a fact that I've made an archaeological connection between Göbekli Tepe in Turkey with Egypt and Easter Island, and I'll be releasing the information on that in December in my book. I mean, it's really short. All it is comparisons against carvings and hieroglyphs and stuff like that, but the same thing repeats itself through Göbekli Tepe, right through Egypt, Easter Island tablets, and Egypt itself. So there's a common connection there, and I've never heard about it anywhere. So I think I'm the first to come across this, and I think it's quite tantalising. So I'm putting that out there in December. It may already be well known by academia, but if not, then I've maybe stumbled onto something. So there's that. And I also made connections this year with the internal functions of the Great Pyramid and the Grand Gallery, and came to some conclusions as to what the Great Pyramid was actually being used for. At that, as well as Stonehenge and other Neolithic sites. So that was all very interesting, which really blew my mind actually through the summer with regards to just how far advanced the ancient Egyptians were. Not just the ancient Egyptians, but obviously that seems to be the epicenter, I feel like, of it all. But they were definitely far more advanced than we have been led to believe, or has been shown to us by the British Museum or anyone else. It's all been covered up. So that's my belief. That's where I'm at with it, Michael.
No, absolutely. Ironically, it's the same thing that I've discovered as well. And in terms of Göbekli Tepe in Egypt and Stonehenge, I've even basically connected the whole of the ancient world and saw down the city on Mars and different monuments on different planets to the epicenter, which is Egypt. I've also connected pretty much the whole of the Bible to the Giza Plateau, because the Giza Plateau is the original Bible in stone. So yes,
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you because I know how right you are. I made there's a couple other connections I made with the Great Pyramid this year I totally forgot about there, which you just rang that bell for me, and I've just been reminded of that. I mean, there was, honestly, to be honest with you, Michael, there was that much going on with me this summer. It was hard for me to keep up with the amount of discoveries that I was actually making. My brain was racing at 10,000 miles per hour for like 6 weeks, and it was exhausting. I had to keep lying down. So things would hit me, and I would have to lie down for a while and try and recover. But yeah, you're right what you're saying about the Garden of Eden and all this carry on, and Egypt being the epicenter with the Bible and the blood of Christ and the body of Christ and all this kind of stuff. So it gets kind of quite deep. I only tap into so much of it in my new book because it really stems on, it's more focused on what's been happening mainly this year with the Pentagon Uap Report, which was published on the 25th of June, which was another total whitewash. And I think that my research has shown that basically it was all part of a big, massive psychological operation to convince the world that UAPs were not connected to alien spacecraft or alien civilizations per se. So the whole song and dance with all the leaks that came out this year was all complete theatre, just for the public to downplay what was going on, even though they were making a big deal of it in the media and hyping it up. They were totally downplaying it at the same time. I mean, ufology was getting assassinated one Pentagon leak at a time, as far as I'm concerned. And it turns out, well, I've actually now questioned this, but according to artistic filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, the man with the weaponised curiosity, according to him, there was only 2 staff members on the UAPTF. Now, do you not find that quite interesting when so much information was getting leaked from a department with only 2 people? You know what I mean? So something's not right about that. Why was Jeremy Corbell not questioned by military security intelligence services with regards to the classified information that he published on the CIC of an active US warship? So these things come ahead.
Excuse me, jumping in, Joe. Have you ever tried to get in touch with him and ask him that?
Corbell, I did get in touch with him and a few months ago, but I can't remember what I said to him. I think it was more like an angry rant.
Right.
That I was really, because I was getting really fed up at the fact that he wasn't checking and rechecking his sources before he went public with his information, because it consistently came out with nothing, and everything that came out was a big deal about nothing, and it all led to, I mean, every report you got, it was on the UAP TF, this was leaked, and it was a Batman bone, and then we got the night vision footage of a commercial aircraft, and then we get the other dodgy footage at the end of the supposed UAP submarine, or the stuff going into the water.
I remember one about the aircraft,
I find everything that he brings out questionable. Ever since he said that he wanted to get to the truth about the Bob Lazar story, and then he produced the movie used screen prop photograph of the hand scanner which was used in Close Encounters, and Bob Lazar said, "Oh yeah, that's the one I used." Now, the whole point of that documentary was to try and clear Lazar's name and try and set the record straight, but by producing a prop of a hand scanner that was used in the greatest UFO movie of all time, it only casts further doubt on what Lazar's saying and the authenticity of his claims. So I find the whole, I think Corbell was used this year by the Pentagon. Just decided they were just going to, throw stuff at him, knowing that he would publish it, and it was all garbage.
Like misinformation type of thing.
Yeah, it was all misinformation. It was all disinformation. I mean, I was looking at Mick West. Have you heard of him? The guy that done a lot of debunking a lot of this military footage. I was watching some of his stuff today, and the guy's quite astute. He knows his stuff. But he was also talking about the USS Nimitz encounters, and he was quite able to explain away quite a lot of the material that was published through that report. So I'm still on the fence with regards to the Nimitz encounter. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about tic-tac. I mean, we're talking about a shoebox flying about here. I mean, what are we talking here? Do you know what I mean? If we get an army of an invasion of ant-men coming to this planet to take over, you know? So our spaceships need to be a bit bigger than a shoebox, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you bring out a good point there, James. I mean, aliens don't have to be sort of like our size, do they? They could be massively bigger than us or little tiny insects.
Yeah, they could be 9 foot. Yeah, exactly. None of this 3 foot small alien greys, you know. No, they're about 8 or 9 foot, and they're very imposing looking.
I mean, James, Michael might be able to fill us in there, Michael, because you've had encounters with aliens. What is your description of them?
Well, of course, it depends upon what race they are. The encounter that I had, he was certainly, about 6'3". The skin was so tightly taut over his face that you could see all the contours of the bones and the cheekbones sticking out. His eyes were completely black. His energy was horrendous, something I'd never experienced before in what it made me feel like inside, and quite clearly he was not of this world. And so a lot of the other encounters have been, well, should we say, things coming out of portholes, massive cigar-shaped UFOs, 3 of them in the sky, being telepathically invited to certain locations, just like the movie. And
so James, he's not laughing at you again. There, I'm not
laughing at you. I'm like, that happened to me.
Yeah, I know James's descriptions to me of the similar types of things, Michael.
Yeah.
And I think a big mistake that the UFO community are making, and why a lot of them are not seeing anything, is because they're looking in the wrong place. When you look at people looking in outer space, it's not in outer space, it's in inner space, and that inner space is within your scanning sort of reality, and they operate within different frequencies. Now, when we evolve in terms of vibration and frequency and intelligence and consciousness and spiritual maturity, that's when we'll be able to see them and interact more. But they're not in outer space, they're in inner space all around us, just in places that we can't interact with because it's more vibrationally evolved than we are. So that's why a lot of the UFO community are not seeing things, because firstly they're looking in the wrong place, and secondly they're really selling themselves short in terms of what the UFO phenomenon is. It's more than just a tin box in the sky. It goes very, very, very deep, and there's multiple reasons for that depth, and why there's visitations, and why certain people are being chosen to be visited. So it's a very, very deep and long sort of phenomena, but really it's not that great a phenomenon. It's what's normal. We categorise and put labels on it and say it's ufology, it's paranormal, it's supernatural. It's not. It's normal. What is not normal is the fact that we've distanced ourselves and disconnected ourselves from what is normal. And once we start to realise that and start to raise ourselves, which is what the monuments and the monoliths and religious scripture is really telling us at its deepest levels, once we spiritually mature enough and make ourselves, should we say, more of a higher vibration, then these things will become more and more present around us.
There you go, James. That could be what you've experienced. I did suggest to you that maybe you were getting downloads and things, and maybe in a broad sense, maybe you've been chosen to get this information out there as well as Michael has.
Recognition. That's it. One word: recognition. Yeah. Yeah, Michael. I find that interesting what you said there about having to go to a certain place or whatever. My initial encounter upon seeing this UFO flashing away, I mean, I read a report the other night and it said it was flashing lights like ambulance lights. And I thought that was quite a good way of putting it. But yeah, it was flashing very bright ambulance like red, green, and blue lights. I mean, super, super rapid and super bright. And it was only this year that I applied what I called deep thought to that particular event. And the more I thought about it, the more layers I sort of peeled through. And I ended up looking up the human light spectrum. And because I thought, well, if it's flashing all these lights, they usually mean something, So I thought maybe it was talking. And when I went and looked at the light spectrum, I realised that red was for broadcasting and receiving. So, and obviously the green and the blue were for ultraviolet and infrared light. So, when I first seen this UFO, and I've seen the lights flashing, I've seen it sitting stationary, obviously couldn't hear anything. It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't going anywhere. It's just sitting there flashing all these lights. So within, a second, a fraction of a second, I knew that I was looking at a true bona fide UFO. And upon that, I consciously spoke to it. And I said, come closer. And immediately it shot up at 45 degrees and stopped dead. And then it shot back down momentarily afterwards in the opposite direction at 45 degrees, and it stopped dead. And then it shot back to its original position and stopped dead. So it just made a triangle in the sky, leaving a light trail behind it each time it moved. Once it made this triangle in the sky, it then repeated that 5 or 6 times, and it hit each 3 points that it had passed previously. But it made hoops of light in the sky with this plasma trail behind it. And again, obviously this year, the very same night that I was looking up the human light, the light spectrum, I was also listening to a lecture by the Atomic Energy Commission for the UK. And I can't remember the professor's name, but it was a lecture on plasma physics. So he's talking away while I'm looking up the light spectrum. And then I start to hear him talking about ion trails. And so I switched back and went over to YouTube and started watching what he was saying. And straight away he starts putting up diagrams of the flow that negative and positive ion trails take in a plasma trail. And upon seeing this diagram, I knew exactly what it was. It was exactly what I seen in the sky when this UFO was performing these clockwise hoops. And it looked like a positive and negative ion trail that was overlapping each other. It was like spaghetti all rolled up in the sky. And then it shot off and it was gone. So with regards to me speaking to it, that was that. The event was over. I said goodnight to my friend. I made my way back towards the house. And 15 minutes later, when I got into my street, there was one pretty much sitting at the end of the street. So that event, the second event, it was basically flashing lots of different coloured lights again. And then it grew brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And then the thing seemed to just completely implode. And that was amazing, So that was it. So my sightings as well was at 4:45 and then 5 o'clock. So that was my first sighting was 4:45 a.m. A week later, exactly at 4:45 a.m., I had my next encounter. Not my next encounter. I had my next encounter actually at 16:45. The previous night, which was obviously 6 days and 12 hours from my first sighting. And obviously I made a note of the time. I thought, oh, that's interesting, 4:45, that's quite interesting. Thought no more of it. But then on 11th of December at 4:45 a.m, my friend and I were going to leave to go and get tickets for the Travis gig that was taking place in Glasgow the following day. And my friend said to me at 4:30, come on, we'll go, because we were going to meet up with my sister and her friend. And she says, right, come on, we'll go. And I says, no, we'll wait till 4:45. And she went, why? And I went, I said, because that's when the weird stuff happens. thinking, no more of it. I just had an inclination something would happen. But we left at 5:15 and opened the front door, and there was literally a UFO 2 streets away coming towards us, but not towards us, running parallel with us. And we ran into the lane to try and see this thing without the glare of the streetlights. So that's why we went into the lane. And again, up until this year, up until June this year, I was of the opinion that we observed one craft come along and then stop dead, and then a second craft materialised right beside it momentarily, and then the two of them started to exchange light patterns. But this year, as I say, I had revelations this June, and I had 2 flashbacks to my encounters, which shed more light on exactly what happened that month or that year. And I realised that my 445 connection wasn't baloney. It wasn't just a weird coincidental re-sideline to it all. There was this 445 had meaning to it, and I knew that for the whole 11 years or 20 years that I've been looking into all this. 20 years now. But for all the years that I'd been researching this, I always knew there was a connection with 445, and it always annoyed me, the fact that it was like, what is it? But again, this year, as I say, I realised that the 445 connection, that there must have been something subliminally told to me to be at that point in time. I think on the 11th of December, and I think now on the 11th I was abducted. And I've got a good reason for saying that. It's because my second flashback, I caught more of what was going on. But I've been drawing, I used to doodle these wee aliens and work and all that. I used to draw them all the time. They'd be like mushroom heads and big round eyes instead of these oval eyes that everybody draws. I was drawing big, heavy, round eyes on these wee mushroom-headed guys. And then this year I found out that I'd been drawing them accurately for this time, and I'm like, right, well, there's got to be something to that. But so I'm now convinced that I was taken on the 11th of December, maybe even on the 4th of December as well. I'm not too sure, but I know that I definitely had more involvement than I was aware of for all these last 20 years that I've been researching this. And this year, as I say, a lot of stuff came to light, and I'll tell you this as well. When I had the first flashback, I actually felt a physical sensation on the back left-hand side of my brain. It was almost like, the best way to put it is like shower gel or jelly or something that was like coating a part of my brain, just all suddenly fell off and slid down the side of my neck. And I could actually feel this physical sensation of this thing moving from the back of my head right down the side of my neck, and it was weird. But after that, I think that was the 10th, I think that was the 10th of June, and within 3 days I had solved all sorts of UFO-related cases. Within the space of 3 days, I solved 3 cases. I solved the STS-103 UFO riddle. I solved my own case, and I solved the Illinois encounters that took place on the 5th of January 2000, all in the space of 3 days. So that was quite unexpected.
So do you feel they were all connected though, James?
They were, but I just never bridged the connection until this year, because for all the years that I was researching my original book, Corroborating Evidence, I had been personally looking into reports of UFOs that were blue-white oval shaped or white sort of phosphorescent UFOs. I was looking for these bluish white type oval shaped things. But this year it became apparent that the whole time that I had been staring at these UFOs that I thought were oval-shaped, blue-white UFOs were nothing of the sort. They were actually the spotlight, which was attached to a much, much larger object. that was sitting behind that, but I could not see it for the glare of the spotlight. All you see is an oval light in the sky. So this year, as I say, I concluded that the sighting that I had on the 11th of December, when we went out the front door, was actually the one craft that we seen coming along. And when we thought we seen the second craft appear, what we were actually seeing was these, these triangular UFOs. They've got the 3 white lights underneath. We were actually seeing 2 of these lights from underneath as this UFO banked and turned to face us. And that's how this second UFO appeared and then disappeared. It materialised out of nowhere and then it dematerialised. So all that was this thing was turning around. And we briefly got to see part of the underside of it. But we stood watching that thing for maybe 4, 5, 6 minutes. God knows how long. Well, it was giving it. It was like a fruit machine, with the jackpot. It was just lights were going off everywhere. And then it was my friend that actually realised that there was a third UFO which had appeared higher up towards us, or higher up and closer to us. And it was this other object that let out about 5 blasts of light. And it was like a strobe light. But when this light came down round about us, I could actually see our shadows on the fence when this thing lit us up. But this year again, as I say, I had the second flashback to that encounter. And I remember when I was watching this light when it went off. Now, previously, Gary Woods, who was involved in the Day 70 abduction in 1992, he described driving through a wall of light which looked like a detuned television set. So when I read that account, I was like, oh, that's what I seen, kind of thing. My friend also described it as glitter, which is another good description. But as I say, when I was trying to focus on, I said it looked like light which was bouncing about in every direction at the same time. But when I had the second flashback, I remember actually trying to stare at this light and trying to focus on it. And it was when I was focusing on this light that was bouncing about, I actually seen something coming through it. And it was like one of those sort of bead curtains that you get. It was like the way it sort of, and it dipped its head as it came through. And this thing was really tall. And that's the very moment. As soon as I've seen this, I've turned my head, and that's when I've seen our shadows in the fence. But that's the only recollection I've got of that, so I don't know if that's a false memory but as I say, the whole fact that I was drawing them for years accurately tells me now that there was more to it, So I find it all very interesting, as I say, I've learned a few things this year, that there was more involvement than I was aware of. So I'm kind of open to it all now, So it's changed me, definitely changed me.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about it, Michael? Is that something to do with what you were talking about everything being inside of you? It's not actually extraterrestrial as such, although I do believe they're extraterrestrials, obviously. But there's something else going on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I say it's all inside, I mean, when you look at really, our version of what reality is our mind, which is in a room that looks out of 2 windows, which are your eyes. So a lot of the things that we are seeing and we are experiencing are within our own universe, within our own consciousness, within our own reality. And yes, of course, there are those who travel the stars, but what is distance? When I look at what I believe to be a distant star, that's really an image on the surface of my retina. When I look at a star and that starlight emanates, then I'm connected to that starlight. So what really is distance? What is time? What is distance? What do we understand the universe really to be? Now, when you look at all the ancient philosophies and everything else, they tell you about becoming the God-man, becoming the union with the God within. And that really is your higher level of vibration, your divine mind, your divinity. Now, when you raise yourself sufficiently to the levels that these beings, these extraterrestrials, these interdimensional travellers are operating on, then you will see them. The amount of things that I've experienced with myself and my wife and a couple of friends on occasions, that it's in the middle of the street, in the middle of the day, on a Saturday afternoon in a busy town, and only a few of us seemingly can see them. You know, when I look up at, on a Saturday afternoon, bright blue skies, and it's literally Saturday afternoon, and there's my wife and I in a car, and we look up and there's 3 gigantic cigar-shaped UFOs above our hometown. You know, you would expect the scene to be people, you know, like Independence Day, people dumping their cars and looking up in the sky and that taking all the focus, but it was nothing of the kind. So it has to be a frequency thing. It has to be, you sometimes catch a glimpse of the frequency in which they operate within, and when you do that, you can't help but see them. And you know, when you start looking at some of the experiences and when you listen to other people's experiences, it's really remarkable, and it's not a coincidence how all of these experiences seem to follow a similar path, a similar line. Now, for me, when I first started, I was purely an experiencer. Literally every day I was experiencing something. I was later told that, you know, you wonder how you get the information you do. Well, we channel it to you, you know, and since birth you've been chosen for this path. So it's remarkable how many people have the same kind of thing. So I started off as purely an experiencer, and then I was sort of drip-fed exactly what I'd experienced and exactly what it was that was happening to me, which had turned my life upside down. And later on I began to get given, and still do, quite complex quantum mechanic equations. I have been in my room literally in the day and looked up, and there's been a see-through sphere, and there's been some kind of advanced technology within that sphere that I've been allowed to see. And it's really a privilege to be privy to this kind of events that are going around us all the time. And, you know, it's really, really nice to be able to see them and interact with them. And, you know, looking in your bathroom mirror, which started off as your reflection, and then all of a sudden there's a Palladian female looking back at you. That Palladian female then leaves the mirror and she's standing next to you. And then you realise that mirrors are actually portals, or they can be used as portals. And there is so much going around that if we're not tuned into that particular frequency, it'll go all around us unnoticed. If we match that frequency, then we will see it and we will interact with it. And that is really when they operate in an advanced evolved frequency and sort of an evolved vibration that we're not yet existing within, then these things are unnoticeable to us until we tune into that frequency. And the more and more we evolve ourselves, the more and more we will be able to interact with these intergalactic travellers. But when we're looking in outer space for them, there's no need to look in outer space. They are in inner space, which is within our own reality, within our own consciousness remit. If we evolve ourselves in a frequency way, then we can interact with them.
There you go, James. Can you relate to that?
Well, I think that, just what you're saying there, I mean, going back to that encounter we had on the 11th, where I say I think we were taken, you know. After that, we went down to Queen's Park, a place called Queen's Park Rex. It's just lots of football grounds, but there's a real big, great panoramic view of the sky from there. And we went down there and we watched further UFO activity that night, or that morning, I should say. But we actually stopped 2 people that we seen walk along the pathway a few hundred yards from us, you know, and we shouted them. And I think it was at first it was a postman, and then it was a woman. And the first guy, the postman, obviously had his gear on and all that, you could tell he was going to work. But we shouted, "Oh, excuse me, can you see that?" Aye. Now, you know, he's off skate, he's too busy going to work, and then we seen a woman, you know, "Here, excuse me, can you see that?" I mean, me and my pal were standing in the middle of a field, jumping about, one east, you know what I mean, at quarter to 7 in the morning, I think it was, before we left there. But Yeah, it was just, as I say, we stopped two people and we were like, can you see that? And they turned around and they looked and they went, yeah. And then they just totally ignored it and carried on with their daily lives. Do you know what I mean? It was like, whoa, that's quite interesting, you know, because me and my pal stood and we pretty much watched a light show put on for us, you know. We watched all sorts of stuff happen, which involved one of these UFOs coming right down behind a tower block. And it actually dipped below the height of the tower block, so we could no longer see it. And there was a big light trail that followed this craft as it went down behind the building. The craft disappeared, and then the light trail just disappeared. And then as soon as that light trail disappeared, the craft came back up again. The light trail was coming from underneath it, and it moved off. And within about 5 minutes, 3 RAF tornadoes came flying over, and that was it. The show was over. So that was interesting. So that was the first encounter that I had with military jets. And then 4 days later, I had a second sighting event which involved military jets vectoring in on UFOs for the second time in the same area within 4 days. So when I made an official report, they told me there was no corroborating evidence, and I just knew that was absolute, you know, rubbish. And I'm going to prove them wrong one day, you know. So I think that was the whole point. You know, when I had dinner with Stanton Friedman down in Holmfirth in 2015, we sat and I was discussing the reasons why I got into ufology. And obviously, I had these sightings, and I felt they were very important. And the fact that I had been given this report, this letter from the Ministry of Defence, with my name and address on it, my name on it, telling me that there was nothing going on. I knew that was a personal lie sent to me, and I thought, well, they've lied to the wrong person, and I'm going to set about it and disprove them one day. So that was the whole driving force behind corroborating evidence, was to disprove the Ministry of Defence and provide corroborating evidence. So one thing they said that they could not find any evidence of. So that was the whole driving force behind the first book. Which accumulated with, basically what you're saying again, Michael, about going looking around, looking for aliens. I spent pretty much a decade going around the world, well, not going around the world physically, but looking at UFO reports that were submitted all around the world during December 1999. Because I realised that I wasn't getting anywhere with my official inquiries. So I decided to start looking for other people's eyewitness accounts, and I wanted to see if I could find other key descriptions that were the key words that I used in my own personal written account, which was published in 2001. So I used my written account, the 11th hour I called it, and I used that as a Rosetta Stone, if you like. And then from there, I went looking for other accounts that fitted that, and I collected, I amassed quite a collection over a period of 10 years. But it's one of the ones, if you're looking for evidence of aliens, there's no point in running about the world. It's the best place to find them up in space, And I ended up coming across some research regarding, I ended up doing my own research, I should say, on the NASA STS-103 mission, which was between the 19th and the 27th of December, 1999, and it was during, they were going up to repair the Hubble. And in 2010, I found out about this blue-white oval-shaped UFO, funny enough, which appeared on NASA mission frame. I'll just read it after now for the listeners. If you want to Google STS 103-734-58, sorry, 59, I beg your pardon, 59, and you'll get this blue-white oval-shaped UFO in the background of a Hubble image. So I learned about that in 2010, and then 2012 I actually went back and started to do some research on that particular mission. which led to some interesting discoveries in 2012, when I discovered the shadow of the Hubble Space Telescope on the hull of an unknown physical structured object, which appeared in this NASA image. And I knew exactly, I mean, it was, I can remember the day and everything, it was August the 31st, 2012. I knew exactly what I found when I realised that I had actually got the shadow of the Hubble telescope cast onto the hull of a UFO. It told me everything I needed to know. It told me it was a physical object in orbit with the Discovery and the orbiter. So I published this information in 2014, then went on to promote it. As I say, 2015 I went down to Holmfirth and Stanton Friedman. And I've kind of been shied away from ufology the last few years. I've just not been really part of the community anymore, as per se, but I've still been back and forth with my own private investigations. But this year, as I say, this year a lot happened. Revelations this June, all starting for June the 10th, and snowballed from there. I've had my heart in my mouth every day for 6 months, and I've been literally bursting at the seams to impart this information. But I'd also like to say I also tried to publish. I published this information in June or the beginning of July, I believe, and it was quickly removed by Facebook. They removed 7 posts that I made on several UFO groups, and despite my attempts to try and get in touch with several branches of the media, I was downplayed every time. The Sun newspaper told me that the story of discovering aliens was something that they wouldn't be interested in publishing. They told me that twice. So no aliens. Oh, you discovered aliens? Oh, no, not interested. Right, fair enough. So after a few letdowns earlier this year, I decided that I had to do a much more thorough approach to releasing this information, because it's not something that you can just put out there for everybody to see and understand in full. So I've had to do a complete... it was actually through a conversation I had with the Black Vault director, John Greenwald. I was talking to him, and it became apparent in conversation with him that I would have to do a lot more work in order to publish this information. And that way the whole community wouldn't be jumping down my throat and jumping to conclusions. So the best way I put it is I had to leave a breadcrumb trail for the reader to fully understand all the circumstances and the evidence and everything that led me to make the discoveries that I have this year. And I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified, because I can't say too much just now. I don't want to let it all out. I'm in the middle of doing a couple of articles for OLM magazine, Outer Limits magazine, and Phenomena magazine. They'll be featuring in December, and I'm hoping to have the information out then. But it's going to absolutely tilt the world on its axis. It's never going to be the same again. And Edward Snowden is just going to look like kids play compared to what I've got now. So what I've got could be, it's wonderfully terrifying. That's the best way for me to put it. It's wonderfully terrifying news, but I would rather put it out and 7.9 billion people would no longer be lied to, as far as I'm concerned. And that's the morality of my stance with this, is I would rather publish and not let anybody get lied to any longer, rather than go insane keeping this knowledge to myself. And only a few people know about this. David, you're one of the few privileged people that know.
I am, and I do feel privileged, thank you. Excuse me.
No, you're a star, you're welcome. But Malcolm Robson, Ron Halliday, Kathleen Marden. I just want to say David Marler. I want to say a big thanks to everybody just now on I'm here just to say thanks for your discretion and keeping tight-lipped about this little project that I've been working on. And I'm really looking forward to putting it out. But as I say, I've tried to do some promoting on this, and all I'm doing is coming under attack at the moment. So it's really making me shy away from the community again. Because I've got some very bold claims, and obviously bold claims you have to put your money where your mouth is.
Well, I think Michael's been there anyway, haven't you, Michael?
I think anybody who's in this arena that, you are intent on revealing truth to people and removing the lies, which, really people believe that the Antichrist is one thing, the Antichrist is not. The Antichrist is anything that is false, anything that is a cause of error, anything that is ill advice. That's politics, that's religion, that's the UFO community, that's the science community. Anything that steers people away from the truth is the Antichrist. And anybody that has come into this kind of arena where you have controversial information that really does go against the mainstream narrative. Once you go against the mainstream narrative, then you really will come under attack. And, when the RAF scramble fighter jets, it's because they pick something up in their skies. And they don't scramble fighter jets for no reason. So when you see something and then all of a sudden fighter jets appear, it's because they pick something up. That is evidence. I've had the same kind of thing where I've seen balls of fire, what appeared to be a ball of fire in the sky. And I saw it. A couple of my colleagues saw it. I was at an incident with paramedics and they saw it.
What you saw for a thing, did it make your eyes water?
I guess it didn't make my eyes water, but bear in mind that in a previous career I was on night duty, and because we were so close to Birmingham International Airport, my initial thought that it was an aeroplane on fire. That is how sort of bright and how big this ball of fire was.
Yeah.
So he came over, we all witnessed it, completely silent, took photographs of it, which bore no resemblance to what the eyes saw. But nevertheless, he came over twice in the same area of sky, in the same way. Now, 3 weeks later, my police force helicopter was at an incident in the same area, and when it was on its way back to Birmingham Airport to land, it was followed by a ball of fire, and it was refused permission to land until this ball of fire had left. Now, of course, all the incident logs were blocked. Everything, nobody could see anything, no one could find anything. There's incidents that I've seen when I was, a serving officer, and they're quite interesting to see who the authorities and the establishment, what they're witnessing. And I've come back to report incidents that I've witnessed whilst on duty. And as I was doing that, my emails were removed, and probably a minute or two later, they were put back as if they'd been taken, copied, and then returned with the intent of me not noticing. I've had my phones tapped. We've had anomalies outside in telephone boxes outside that feed my house, and I've had engineers come out and actually find these anomalies that shouldn't be there. So the powers that be will stop at nothing to try and censor people who are in this arena, who are trying to expose the truth, because you are a danger to them, because they don't want people to know the truth. Now, that it doesn't matter if that's exposing religion, if it's exposing the sacred monuments, if it's exposing ufology, if it's exposing the paranormal, anything that they are sensitive about, they will try and block you as much as they possibly can, and you will be under attack and you will be censored, and they will, to turn around and say that you found evidence of alien life, we're not interested. Well, why are you not interested? Because that in itself, to tell...
Yeah, that's a story in itself. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's an anomaly.
My argument to them was, it might be a story they might not be interested in publishing, but it's a story that the world wants to hear, But, Michael, I've had all sorts of problems this year. I got in touch with WikiLeaks, and they were like, yeah, send us the stuff. You need to download Tor and do it through a secure server. Right, no problem. Boom, boom, boom. It would not... I could not upload it to Tor. I had everything fine. It just would not let me submit my material to WikiLeaks. I got back in touch with them and I'm like, guys, I'm having problems, you know what I mean, can you help me here? And they've totally blanked me since.
Yeah.
And then, when I get nowhere with WikiLeaks, I thought, right, well, I'll get in touch with Jennifer Robinson. She's a lawyer. Got her email and her office email, and I sent them an email. Can you please help? You know, I'm having a problem. Try to get this onto WikiLeaks. Boom, both my emails get blocked. So I'm like, Jennifer Robinson, you know, human rights activist, she's not interested in 7.9 billion people being lied to. So I'm super, ultra disappointed with WikiLeaks as a whistleblowing organisation who have just totally, you know, turned the other cheek on this one. Again, I'm not sure what's happening with The Guardian, but The Guardian, we done a bit of dancing to and fro earlier on this year, and they were apparently sitting on my material, but then they said it was sent to the wrong department, could I resend it, and so on and so forth. But they've not exactly jumped. I mean, it's not as if I was Edward Snowden. They've had to jump a point to, you know, Hong Kong or whatever to go, but they weren't exactly in a hurry to email me back either. So I've been really disappointed with the media per se, and that's a whole chapter that I bring in my new book. Does journalism exist? I pose the question because I don't really think it's there. I can't find it.
Yeah. What you have to realise is the many thousands of media outlets there are across the world, they're actually owned by 6 people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's WikiLeaks, Wikipedia, you know, Wiki, whatever it is, it's all controlled really by the same group of people. And the establishment, whether it's human rights lawyers, civil rights lawyers, whatever they are part of the establishment, and they will not rock their own gravy belt. You know, I've written to my MP and had emails blocked. You know, I've written to many departments and had things blocked and then had no reply, or, you know, we're not interested in this. Why are you not interested in this? Because, you know, even contacting the Colorado Museum and saying, I will come there at my own expense, at my own time, and I will actually teach you about Egypt, the true Egypt, you know, and for them to turn around and say, nah, we're not interested with mainstream, quote unquote. You know, there is a complete attempt to stop any elements of truth coming out. So I'm not surprised. Of course, yes, it can be disappointing, but I'm not at all surprised, because it's happened to me, it will happen to you, it will happen to anybody else who follows in these footsteps, because everything wants to give out one world view, just a one view, just a one version of events, which is this.
Don't go changing the canvas. Yeah. Totally. I mean, I've had 3 policemen tell me to my face, I've ran this information past 3 police that I've came across, spoke to them, I'm just like, here, can I borrow you for a second, you know? And then I've briefly explained what I've been doing and what I did and how I found it. And I've been told that what I'm doing is perfectly fine, it's perfectly legal, I've done nothing wrong. I'm like, right, okay then, that's fine. As long as it's alright with you guys, do you know what I mean? Because I was like, well, you guys are only going to come in and kick my door in at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, you probably realised that Michael used to be a policeman.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure when you said you were serving forces, so I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you were armed forces or something.
Well, I mean, I can say categorically, you know, what you're doing, what I'm doing, there is no illegality about any of it. Where they are sensitive is the fact that it basically proves them to be liars. It proves them to be deceivers. I mean, even the police themselves, you know, they are part of the establishment, shall we say, and you will not crack that nut.
I'm going to crack that nut, mate, and I don't care what happens, man.
No,
Michael, I have that. I've already cracked that nut. I'm just waiting to drop it. I really am, and I'm just like, honestly, it's these are exciting times in my life at the moment, but I don't know how much longer it's going to have after I drop this information. Honestly, I mean, I'm at the end of the day, see my information. You're right what you're saying. They're going to come after me, right? One way or another, I'm going to get totally destroyed, because I remember Stanton Friedman said it. He says if they can't attack the data, they go for the person. So, and I'm like, right, well, nobody can attack my data because it's watertight. It's watertight. I've done my research. I've tied my laces twice. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no.
So we say don't trip over them, yeah.
Double knotted. This is it. You know, I'll not be tripping up. But I'm just waiting to drop it. And it's what you say about the establishment, about the one vision paradigm and all this carry on. I'm about to spray paint all over that. And, you know, as I say, I feel shameless about it. Actually, my book comes with a disclaimer and a warning at the start of it, and I don't know how many UFO books actually come with a disclaimer or a warning. But I make no bones about what I'm putting out there, and I say that I'm taking no responsibility for the way in which my information is received and what happens afterwards. I'm just there to put the information out. I'm just a messenger, and it's going out. And there's just no stopping me. It's going to be really interesting because it's going to be one of those ones where an unstoppable object hits an unmovable object, and that's what's about to happen when I release this book.
Do you feel that though, James? Do you feel that will actually be like that, or do you think it may just be another one of these things that they just ignore? You know, because there have been controversial books that have come out before in all sorts of different subjects, and they kind of just get ignored and brushed aside.
Yeah. Aye. I don't know, but the way I see it is, I mean, when you were talking about your MP there, Michael, I wrote to my local MP who was good enough to respond and say, sorry, this is actually your Westminster MP that will need to deal with this. So I got a reply for him, which was really nice because obviously I sent him all my information. So I have that email going right back to June, July. But my parliamentary MP has just totally ignored me, but they'll still want my vote when it comes voting time, you know. But,
yeah.
I never held back him.
I was actually going to use David Icke as an example. I mean, a lot of the things that where he writes about things is exposing things left, right and centre, and they just, in the mainstream, get ignored, if you see what I mean. You know, so nobody really dares to take him on, take it to court or anything, because they know that if it goes to court, everything comes out, you know. So
he's tied his laces twice as well. Aye. You never know, Davey. I might be on tour with him next year.
You might not know, James, but Michael's had a little series on Iconic, which is very interesting.
Yes, it was filmed. I've done movies with them, with Eddie Van Doniken and David Icke and different things. You are right. You know, these controversial things come out, and why should we be shamed? You know, why should we feel shamed for revealing the truth to people?
Yeah, I agree with you.
They've been lied to for too long. They
that's the way I see it. Yeah,
they have the right to an alternative view, and if they don't accept that, then that's fine. But at the moment, all they're getting is one narrative, you know, and that's not right, because that one narrative is clearly false.
Clearly false. Clearly false. I mean, suddenly I'm just getting pictograms thrown into my head there of, I should say, hieroglyphs. Something else I found really interesting this year was I found several hieroglyphs of I'm trying to think now what temple it is. The Abydos temple, I'm not too sure. But there's depictions of the Ankh, but it's Horus, but he's holding he's holding the staff in each arm, and the staff head, it's a bird head, but it's not a bird head, it's a pterodactyl. It's a pterodactyl. And I looked up the birds and everything. There's nothing in Egypt that resembles what these things are, apart from a pterodactyl. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on here with the timeline? When, you know, the Egyptians are meant to be, they're accurately depicting what a pterodactyl head looks like, you know, and there's a vast difference in timeline. So I found that interesting. It's maybe something I'll branch into when I get more time and go into other aspects of, you know, ancient civilizations and things like that.
Have you got any suggestions? Sorry, have you got any suggestions there, Michael? Because I know you deal a lot in the sort of symbolism and things on the ancient sites, especially like Egypt and that.
Yeah, ancient Egypt is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years old. It's when you look at the weak and feeble attempts at Egyptologists to actually date. When they're telling us the 3,500 to 5,000 years old, it's absolute nonsense. The scepter that you're talking about is called the Wasp Scepter. Now you'll see a tuning fork.
Yeah.
You'll see a tuning fork at the bottom of that. When you look at certain oracle sites, which is usually on top of water, not always, but usually, like for instance, the altar stone in Stonehenge. When you lie on those, almost a crypt. It's the same with cathedrals and churches and ancient monuments. There are crypts underneath them. Now, when you get a candidate, an initiate, who lies on this crystalline sort of stone, and you hit the stone with the Wasp Scepter, it tunes their body and activates their pineal gland. Now, when you start looking at Egypt and the ethos of Egypt and what the Great Pyramid stands for, and when you look at why Egyptologists are telling us that the Great Pyramid was a tomb for pharaohs, well, they are correct, but what they're not telling you is, for one, what the pyramid represents, where the tomb is and what the tomb is, and what a pharaoh is. When you start to learn those three things, then you realise that you're only getting half truth. So it's really all to do with the Godhead. It's all to do with the activation of the God within. It's all to do with the transmutation of self. And all of these different things were tools in order to do that. So the Great Pyramid is hundreds of thousands of years old, and the Egyptian civilization didn't build them. And it was the mathematical creator of the universe that built these monuments with absolute supreme mathematics that only someone with a supreme mathematical mind could actually put there. And it takes some doing to actually interpret them. But there's a lot of method in the madness, and there's a lot of symbology through masonry, through modern day, that came from Egypt. As we mentioned at the beginning, when you look at the Bible, the original Bible is the Giza Plateau. It's just been corrupted through Hebrew and Christian hands. And when you look at all the main stories of the Bible, it's talking about the transmutation of self. It's talking about that secret place within, which is the mind, which is consciousness. When you start looking at the Christ story, it's not a physical man. It's a metaphor. When you look at the Egyptian gods, you see that they are mathematical formulas, and they are evoking certain deities into this reality through certain geometric shapes. And the shapes they were using were circles and triangles, which is the shapes of the ancient monuments and monoliths of the ancient world. So we are talking about the transmutation of self. We are talking about the inner Christ, the kingdom of God. When two eyes become one, you enter the kingdom. Now, that one eye is the opened pineal gland. And when you look at Osiris means open eye. When you look at the obelisk, which is the symbol of the phallus of Osiris, what does a phallus have? It has one eye. We are talking about deep esoteric information that is encoded within these monuments.
Jesus. Yeah. Well, I found a lot of things out this year as well regards to ancient sites, that were kind of really eye-opening with regards to like Stonehenge, how they had actually organised. That was actually a mechanism. And then I realised that the Giza Plateau, as I say, it was the same. It was a device. It was a mechanism that was getting used for something. And what you're saying about the Bible, about I concluded this year that the Great Seal, which is in the antechamber in the Great Pyramid, just before you go into the King's Chamber, it's the one glyph that is in the whole pyramid, and it's known as the boss seal, but basically it's a loaf of bread. And I realised that there was a connection there with Jesus, and beg your pardon. Just fell, just cracked my head open. I
really?
realised that there was it probably done me good. I realised there was a connection with the Great Pyramid with the body of Christ, and I'm like, what's going on here and all this? I found a few things this year that really made me think twice. And what the blood of Christ is. And yeah, I'm quite convinced that we were quite technological going back thousands of years. We had electricity and we knew more than we should have done with regards to why these monuments were created and what their purpose was. And I mean, the Great Pyramid created ozone, and they knew it was going to create ozone. And so, you know, what was the purpose? What was the big need for them to create ozone all around the world for these pyramids? You know, and all these Neolithical sites. They were all creating ozone. So everybody was generating well-being, and there was a lack of disease and stuff like that. So yeah, they were ancient man was super too clued up for history to be getting told the way it is, and I just find that fascinating. It's just like, you know, what is it? It's back to that thing we were talking earlier on about reality and all that, our perceived reality and what we're getting thrown at us, and what we're getting told. You know, reality really looks like when it's just nothing like that at all. So, it's fascinating. And I'm just, as I say, I'm busting at the seams at the moment. My energy, my vibrational tones. Oh, back to that. Earlier this year, I was telling my brother about it. During the summer and all that, when all this was going on. At one point, I told you about, obviously, I felt the sensation of the thing in the back of my neck. But I also got this amazing feeling of well-being that I just never felt in my life. You know what I mean? It was just like, I was just sitting in a living room and I just felt it coming right over me. And I don't know if that was all my chakras aligning or whatever, but what I know now, and I know now what my job is. Basically, I think I know why I was involved in all these UFO sightings, and I was given a role to play, maybe, possibly. Who knows? But yeah, I'm just happy to, because I used to always believe that I was a scribe in a past life. I used to think I was an Egyptian. That's where I thought my love of Egypt came from. I was a scribe in a past life, and I get killed for being a bad speller. You know, something like that. But no, I'm kind of more of the belief that I'm actually a scribe in this life, and I think that's pretty evident by my second book coming out. So. I'm hoping to rock a few boats with this information, and I'm hoping it does get out and it does get the information it deserves, the attention it deserves, I should say, and it should do, because I make some comparisons with the likes of the Gary McKinnon case in 2001 with regards to him hacking into NASA, getting caught, finding nothing. And then there was a big song and dance about it for a whole 10 years while they were waiting to extradite him. And the guy found nothing, but everybody wanted, what did you find? Nothing. Tell us all about it. You know, so it was like that. And, you know, it was like, oh, and it was all hearsay. Do you know what I mean? I mean, granted, all right, maybe he's seen stuff. And I do believe that he's seen stuff, but he couldn't back it up. You know, and that's what was really disappointing about it, was the fact that he hacked in. And he'd nothing to show after getting caught, and you're like, oh, that's a shame. So, and that's what I feel bad about as well, is the fact that he hacked in, trying to find evidence of ET, got into all that trouble, you know, disrupted his whole life, his mum's life, and all sorts. And all he had to do was go into a public NASA server. But again, I don't think these photos weren't published until 2010, so fair enough, he was 10 years ahead of my time, you know. But, I just find that tragic, the fact that all that happened, and the likes of myself, I went onto a public NASA server, and I'm able to take down NASA, SETI, ESA, all in one, and in the Pentagon UFO report, all going to fall with dominoes. All going to fall with dominoes, and that's what I'm terrified about, because I'm just not ready for what happens next. But as I say, I'm going to push that button.
You're not going to cause World War III, are you, James?
Well, the Brookings report back in 1960 said that if any evidence of an alien civilization was ever presented to the public, it could cause the downfall of society.
Yeah.
It is a possibility. So that's why I put a disclaimer at the start of the book. Like, look, if this happens, it's not my fault.
Yeah, I don't really
That's
think...
basically it, I'm like, my bad, sorry about that,
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, I'll know about it when there's anarchy in the streets, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've got all sorts of
just keep your
fundamental
address.
Christians.
Just keep your address secret. That's all you.
Aye, well, I could always just give it to Gary Larrell, Gary Heseltine, and I'm sure it might make its way about.
What's that name again?
Are we allowed to say that on here?
Well, you said it already now, so it wasn't me that said it.
I've
So
said it already, man.
I do make a disclaimer at the beginning of this show that whatever the guest says,
I better make one.
It's not me saying it. So, but
I don't know, but it was the voices. It was the voices. The voices made me say it. But yeah, it's quite interesting that, isn't it? How only one person in the whole UFO community can have your name and address, and then suddenly it's public knowledge all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, there was a few people that experienced that. So,
what was it? Four people who experienced that one?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, absolutely horrible. Anyway, never mind. No time for that.
No, but that's you're going to be tackling something like that in your book, aren't you, James, or is that later for something else?
Well, are we talking here about the Larry Warren fraud scandal?
Well, that's up to you. I mean, I didn't bring it up.
He did. This is it. An NME, the Guardian, the BBC. So, okay, yeah, I do cover the Larry Warren scandal briefly.
I mean, the thing is, it is quite public knowledge anyway, so it's not as if you're sort of bringing anything out that's not been said before anyway. So,
I think it's a very important point that I'll let the reader know that I have a very, very bad taste in my mouth after going through that experience of trying to save that man's reputation before he done something he would later regret.
Yeah. And we're not talking about Larry Warren here. We're talking about Gary Heseltine, aren't we?
We're talking about Gary Heseltine's career here. How I tried to do him a good turn on August the 26th, 2016, and notified him of my findings with regards to some items that Warren sold at auction, and some of his claims that he was making about May Pang, giving him presents, and then I got in touch with May Pang. She said nothing, and she says it was all lies. He was at it, and I notified Gary Heseltine of this. And look, Gary, you're about to host a conference with this guy. You're an ex-copper. Do you know what I mean? And he's at it. Do you know what I mean? How can you know what I mean? Your career's going to go down the Swanee if people find out that an ex-copper, a former detective, cannot see that he's working with a confidence trickster. They blocked me, and then it all spiralled for there. And 3 weeks later, out the blue, I started getting death threats from Larry Warren, despite telling Gary Heseltine in confidence. And then after the death threats, I got a legal letter which confirmed that Warren did have my name and address.
And of course, you weren't the only one, as it would have to be said, doesn't it? There was
no.
There were several of us. Several people would have got death threats.
Yep. But I'm pleased to announce that I am now having the matter investigated as to how Warren obtained my name and address, because I gave his lawyer 30 days notification to contact me to tell me if it was a third party or Mr. Warren that supplied them with his address, with that address. And they never get back to me, so it's now a matter for the Information Complaints Commissioner. So if there was a data protection breach there, the two of them better start worrying. So that's all I'm saying there. So shame on the two of them. But I'll be bringing it up in the new book. I'll be going over the disgusting way I was treated, and the kind of stain it left on ufology for me, and how I couldn't look at ufology in the same way anymore. It was tainted.
I know it damaged you a lot, didn't it? Well, I think it damaged it damaged several of us in some ways. But,
it was really horrible. What I seen that Larry Warren is a character, and what he done to Peter Robbins over the course of the last 30 odd years, repeatedly telling him lies, and using Peter to promote him and to promote his, where ultimately lies and were disproved as lies. And Cosmo Publishers came to that conclusion that they were committed to printing high quality books, and they suspended it because they believed that it didn't meet that category after the information was sent to them. And that's why they ultimately removed the book, because it didn't meet the category of their standards on the fact that it was embellished. So that was that. It was all put to bed far before Mr. Heseltine decided to embark on Capel Green with Mr. Warren.
Yeah.
This was after I'd notified him about what was going on with Warren. So he made his own bed, and he can put on a suit all he wants and go on camera and kid on he's some sort of professional because he can rhyme off dates and places. But he's no more of a observer than you and I. He's not got supernatural ability just because he says he has. I'm a trained observer. What?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you mean? I've got glasses, mate. I've got better vision than you. I've got
I think we ought to point out what you meant by Capel Green. Capel Green is a film that's been about 4 years in the making, I think, at the moment.
It's a pointless documentary that the two of them embarked on with filmmaker Dion Johnson in 2000. I think it was November 2017. It was after Cosmo left the Eastgate.
Yeah, almost straight after, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was late November. Mr. Heseltine was like, "Oh, Capel Green, we're going to totally rewrite the Rendlesham Forest incident, and we'll just call it something else and insert Larry Warren into that scene as he's already been debunked in the Rendlesham Forest incidents or the RFI. He's been debunked in that arena, so we'll just call it Capel Green and we'll slot him back."
Well, I think originally they were saying that they would get left at Eastgate reinstated, didn't they? But
they said it would just be a matter of time before it was reinstated. Yep. But Warren, I remember there was a press article about it, and Warren said that he still stood by every word of it. But at the end of the day, Capel Green says it's not science fiction, but at the end of the day, if bionic deer and premature planetary alignment are not science fiction, I don't know what is. I really don't know what is, so good luck to them with that project. Good luck with that, guys. So yeah, the two of them get a wee mention in my book for the disgusting way that myself, you, and other people were treated by Warren and Mr. Heseltine. Being called trolls for 18 months wasn't very nice. I think I call it was, David, for me, the way I wrote about it in the book, I said it was like Groundhog Day meets A Nightmare in Elm Street every morning, waking up to social media to see what he dropped off.
That's right, that's what it was, I know what you mean.
That's what it was for 18 months. It was like, what we're getting today. At the end of the day, Larry Warren only disproved himself. Yeah. It was the likes of Sasha, yourself, me, that we're all able to start going, hold on a minute, you can't be in two places at once, and so on and so forth. And, the sun doesn't rise at 6:30 in the morning in December in Suffolk, mate. You're wrong.
I think we should point out it was quite an in-depth investigation, really based on Sasha Christie's original investigations and blogs and everything, and it was enhanced by a couple more people, yourself and myself. We all started doing some searching and found quite a few things and anomalies. We found quite a few things going on, and
because yourself, Sasha was doing her stuff and I was doing mine, and the two of us were doing independent research, but the two of us were coming to the same conclusions. And I would find stuff that she would miss, and she would find stuff I would miss, and then when we combined our research, we were like, this is, we built up, Sasha herself built up a mountain of evidence, But, it was just nice to lay a couple of tiles for her.
Well, Sasha had a good start on everybody, because she'd known him for 10 years, didn't she, basically? And she was building, she'd heard all the information firsthand from him and started realising there was something wrong with it.
Bring up the Carrie Fisher story as well, remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's up to you. If you want to tell that little story, Michael, I hope you're enjoying all this. You probably don't know a lot about all this, so.
Well, I've spoken to you, David, about your investigation into it. I mean, all I can add is I became very, very suspicious of Eddie Heseltine when I first came to this. As I said, initially I was purely an experiencer. Now you have Gary Heseltine who comes on the shirt tails of I'm ex-police. I've set up this UFO group for police officers and ex-police officers who are seeing UFOs and seeing these things. Now, I can say hand on heart, there was no police officer in this country that was seeing more than me, either when I was serving or after I'd resigned. And I thought it was very, very suspicious that every time I tried to contact Mr. Heseltine, he never got back to me, he was never interested, and I thought that was very, very suspicious.
That's strange,
considering that's exactly what he stated. That he was setting these groups up for, and that to me just didn't ring true.
There you go, James. First hand you've heard that.
At the end of the day, my biggest regret is I just wish I'd never looked out for him, but after the way I was treated, but if the law was broken and, if my rights were violated, my privacy, my data was shared illegally, then the law will see that and they will prosecute accordingly. But if not, the two of them entirely innocent until such times in a court of law, as Gary likes to say. But the thing about him is Gary says that he prides himself on bringing. He says the things that he looks for. He was given an interview with some girl from Sweden or something. I'm not too sure, but Finland or something. I'm not sure. Nice girl, but the way he was talking to her was just, it was horrible. That's what I was focused on, the way he was speaking to her, as if she was stupid. Just the way he treats women in general. But he was like, the things I bring to ufology I look for is oral. He's like, that's just written evidence or spoken evidence, and he's like documentation, written evidence, and he's like, and physical evidence. And so I made a point of making him note of that in the book and going, well, look, I gave him oral evidence, which was for May Pang. I gave him documentation, which was the Charlie Lennon letters that Warren wrote. And I also gave him the physical evidence, which was the links to the items that Warren sold, which were fake. So I don't know what part of that evidence that Gary Heseltine was unable to see. But I'm sure when I bring my book out and the press get wind of what's going on, and they'll see that Gary Heseltine isn't the cracked up UFO researcher he kids onto the world he is. It's just a chancer. And he sold me out for 30 pieces of silver to Larry Warren in 2016, and I'll never forgive him for that. So, he'll mend him. That's it. He made his own bed. That's it. That's the way I see it, is like he made his own bed. But I'm talking about vibration and all that. I'm no negative at all towards these people. I've got no time for them anymore. I've been through hell and back with them, and now I'm above it. I'm not going to get dragged back into it when I bring this out. But I just want to state for the record my experience and show them up for what they are, because I don't want them getting away with fraud within the UFO community, because it was heartbreaking to watch the first time round what he done to Peter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I honestly, Peter's family to me, and Peter had to stay with me for a couple of days during that conference. By the time he left, it was pretty much blood brothers, do you know what I mean? So I was absolutely livid. I was livid when I found out what was going on, and I still am. It still hits a raw nerve with me. So yeah, I've just got no time for chancers within the UFO community. I just really don't like seeing the subject getting milked and used as everybody's personal money bank.
Yeah.
To make a few bob. I mean, yeah.
See, on the other hand, we are actually looking forward to the emergence of Capel Green, if it ever comes out, to see what's actually in it, aren't we?
I want to see the blooper. I want to see the blooper roll. That would be that probably wouldn't be as funny, actually.
Well, I mean, I'll say I won't be buying a copy, but I'm sure we'll see a copy somehow.
Just for the record, I contacted Netflix some time ago and sent them all the stuff that was to do with the Cosimo investigation and all that, and I made them aware that Mr. Warren was also, as well as seeing aliens, he was also a 9/11 first responder.
Oh, yeah.
So I made them aware that Larry Warren wasn't just an alien airman action man, he was also a Yeti. Bigfoot,
It's the most amazing Bigfoot sighting ever. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, if it's out there, you've seen it. He loved it. So I've had enough of that. Him. So yeah, it's just basically I just thought, you know what, it really left a big mark on my life, and I was really affected by it, and it really tainted my love for ufology. But I've come back to ufology. But as I say, I'm not too enamoured with the community at the moment. As I say, I've been putting out big claims over the last week or two, and all I'm doing is getting attacked, and I'm just like, I'm not going to bother putting out big claims anymore. I thought, you know what I'll do, I'm just going to drop the information and let everybody run a bit like heedless chickens afterwards, because there's no point in me trying to promote something if I can't speak, I can't say what it is, because I just can't let the cat out of the bag. But as I say, I've got a nuclear bomb that I'm about to drop on the Pentagon, and I'm making ufology. Yeah. I'm making ufology.
Yeah. I mean, I think all we can say to sort of close that little bit off, there's an awful lot of jealousy in I suppose in any branch of the paranormal, the UFOs, and probably anything. That's the way I see it. I mean, people just get jealous of that you've got a better story than they have, or your book's better than his.
I've seen 4, I've seen 5. Yeah, totally. There's a lot of pride in the UFO community, and there's a lot of. I mean, I hate to say it, it's like, but there is a lot of people looking down their noses at you. They're too high to communicate with. I mean, I've tried to, again, over the last 6 months, I've tried to take on a few people and go, come into my circle and have a look at this. Exclusive. And I've been ignored by quite a few people. I just want to point out that it's not usually the writers of books that have got the jealousy. It's usually their supporters that come along and start picking sides, don't they? As to who they think has written a better book than so and so, or who they support better than another. That's my experience. I don't really get a lot of all the people I've spoken to, like yourself and Michael. You haven't got sort of any axe to grind with other writers or about other books. It's usually the people that support those books. I've not got an axe to grind with anybody, but what I won't tolerate is people putting out false claims and expecting everybody just to keep.
Well, there is that, yeah.
I was saying to the guy in the shop today, I says, mate, he was holding a wee plastic box for all the sweets, and it was empty, and I says, it's like you standing holding that and saying that a lighter would not melt that, and then I come along and melt it, and then you go in a bad mood with me. I was like, well, it's your own fault for making stupid claims, and it's as simple as that. Element 115 can be weaponized. Whoa. It can only last for like 220 milliseconds, so do you want to explain that one to me, Jeremy? Do you know what I mean? You want to put your money where your mouth is? So things like that, as I say, I will not. I'm no one for being shy. Do you know what I mean? And as I say, I've not got an axe to grind with anybody, but I'm not going to stand here and listen to. I'm not the UFO police. Do you know what I mean? I'm not to go around correcting everybody's work. That's false, true, false. You know what I mean? That's no me. All I'm there to do is just go, look, this happened to me. This is what I did about it. This is what I found. There it is.
And supply the evidence for it. Yeah.
And run. Yeah. And run as fast as I can. But as I say, I've not got an axe to grind with anybody. Warren, it's personal. I would say between Warren and Heseltine, they really done me over in 2016. And calling me a Nazi and Antifa and worse. And I've said, I mentioned in the book that what he said was unforgivable. But to be fair, he was in the middle of learning what it was like to be caught out by 40 years of lies. And his co-author severed ties with him and see his book getting pulled from under his feet. he was in full mental meltdown. So, you know what, it's understandable, but it's still unforgivable what he did. And if the law was broken...
Well, at the time, it wasn't quite 40 years, but it was probably about 30... Well, getting over 30 years, wasn't it? I think,
It was coming up it was coming up the 40th anniversary. It was coming up, approaching it, that's right. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? But I'm just thinking right back to the event, you know. But as I say, it doesn't matter if it was a year or 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Warren took advantage of Robbins, and I feel so bad about it. And it just goes to show you that Warren, what he was trying to do to get stardom, he wasn't even involved. I mean, what really drove me mental about the Capel Green, when they keep advertising it, they're saying, we'll be releasing new documents. And it's like, because all the old ones were you know, debunked as fabrications. So what's the point of producing new documents when all the old ones were fraudulent? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they get a wee bit, but as I say, they get a passing mention in the book. But I've left it all for the appendix, along with some of the information, so the reader can make up their own mind as to whether or not I'm a troll, or whether or not Gary's telling the full story and being totally transparent with his subscribers, his audience.
Well, he has put his point of view out on several shows before now, without anyone having any bit able to come back on it. So I think it's only fair that you've had your chance to say something. So,
as I say, he sold me out for 30 pieces of silver in 2016, and I was trying to save his career, but he joined the dark side, mate, and I think that's the chapter, joining the dark side. I think that's what I called it.
Anyway, on that note, on the Rendlesham Forest incident, for the 41st anniversary, I thought I'll just make this little announcement. I've got Monroe Neville's, it looks like I'm doing a show with, for the 41st anniversary, which should be quite interesting. He was the man that went out with Colonel Holt, and I think he was taking radiation readings, so that should be quite an interesting show. That's if it all goes to plan. At the moment, it's all right on board, and it should be fine.
So, So, Michael, definitely what you're saying about frequency. I definitely think there's something going on there with what you're saying about frequencies and vibration and what you're giving off. I mean, my sister said it reminds me of it all the time, about giving off positive and negative energy. But I do definitely think that I had communication the very, very first night. I had the first sighting when this thing threw itself in the sky before going away. That was really interesting. But author Ron Halliday actually touched on it in his book Haunted Scotland, where he said perhaps I had opened up to that sort of frequency and they were responding. And again, it's going back to what I was saying earlier on about seeing people on the pathway that passed us that just weren't sort of on that frequency, if you like. You know, it's they're just totally oblivious to it. So I find it fascinating. You know, as I say, I met with Yari McCullough back in 2012, and Yari used to be a former coding architect for IBM, but he also was a NASA contractor. And we had lunch one day in Edinburgh, and we had a good discussion over what I found back in 2012. And he was talking about, you know, the very fact that UFOs make themselves visible when they have the ability to cloak themselves. He says, you know, you've got to ask yourself, why do they make them visible to some people and things like that, you know? And it's come back to what you were saying earlier on about driving down the motorway and seeing these things, and everybody else is just carrying on doing their own thing. So it's very interesting, the whole perception thing of it all, you know. But I just know that there's good things coming. Now, this is all part of the plan, and I do believe that I'm playing a role in all of this, and I'm looking forward to just putting it out there and running away, as I say, because as I say, I've no idea how this information is going to be handled. I'm terrified.
Has he got any right to be terrified, Michael? I mean, you put things out there and you haven't run away, have you?
I'm hiding under a big rock.
The thing is, when the unknown is always unnerving, because if you've never been there before, if you've never been beyond the horizon, if you do go beyond the horizon, if you do go into realms and realities beyond ours, then you are the hell of him. That's exactly what it means. If you haven't been past the horizon, you don't know what's there, of course, it's going to be unnerving. When you put this information out, when you say you have a role to play, of course you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing these things. You wouldn't be experiencing these things. The very reason that you are says that you have a role to play, says that you've been chosen to play that role. And when you go in, I believe you were describing in past lives. Well, when you look at the deep initiation beliefs, the belief is that you carry on in this life where you left off in the last one. So it is a path where you don't necessarily have to get involved in underground rituals. Sometimes your life mirrors the ceremonies of initiation, which is what mine does. And I'm related to Egyptian royalty through Irish kings. Now, when you said earlier on, and I totally agree and concur, that there's not only a connection between Egypt and Göbekli Tepe and Stonehenge, there's a connection between the whole of the ancient world and the stars and the planets and the Sidonian city on Mars, which mathematically give you the precise location of how to find other monuments on Earth from Mars, and so on and so on. There's a gigantic assistance going on a solar system and galactic scale, and anybody who's involved in that and exposing that has been chosen to do it. So you do have a role to play. We all have a role to play. The information, how I sort of express it, how I sort of explain it, is these things are going to happen. Now, I feel that I'm an observer on my own ship of life, and I think that ship of life has been set a course, and it's going to reach that course, it's going to reach that destination, and I'm an observer on the ship. So I'm looking at what has already been determined. I'm looking at, this is what you're going to do with your life, this is what you're going to expose, you're going to go there, you're going to have to go there, you're going to have to go on the crest of the wave, because that's what's been determined. So I don't think you'll have much of a choice, James, in putting this information out, because it'll just take you. And that's what I have found. The wave just takes you, and wherever your ship of life goes is where it's meant to go. But you certainly have a role to play, or you wouldn't be experiencing these things.
There you go, James.
Aye. Yeah, I mean, no, it's. I mean, it's nice. I mean, but is it just what you're saying about Irish kings there? That old Irish saying, "May the wind be at your sails." You know what I mean? May the sun be in your face, and the wind be in your sails.
No, of course. So, when you look at Ireland, Aya, E-I-R-E in Egyptian means eye. So that's the land of the eye. Now, when you start again going to Osiris, the open eye, you start to get some connection.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Irish blood through it going through. I've got Irish blood in me, mate. So, and I can feel it. So, and it's good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this because I say I'm looking forward to this. I just mean, as I say, I'm confident that I'm doing the right thing. As I say, but I'm not prepared for what happens afterwards. I've just no idea. I'm getting this panic attack thing that I had back at the millennium, where I think my life's just about to imminently be over. And I'm getting that panicky way, you know, I'm just like, oh, much to do. But I'm sure this will pass. This anxiety one. And when I watched something the other day and it was talking about, you know, you need to just train your brain to say what I'm doing is perfectly natural. And it calms you down before, you know, if you were going to give a big talk or something like that. So yeah, I need to remember what I'm doing is just perfectly natural. I'm just an investigator. I found stuff out. I'm putting it out there. But again, like yourself, I'm primarily a witness to these things. I'm I'm a witness. I'd like to see myself as a witness instead of an investigator or an author. I'd rather see myself as that ground, boots on the ground guy. So I've evolved over the last 20 years, as I say, from, eyewitness to researcher to author, to contactee, finding it 20 years later. So it's all very interesting, as I say. What I'll be putting out in December is just, I find it hard to believe. And I'll be doing another show with David soon to talk more about it, but
that's a secret. You're giving a secret away now. No.
But no, I'm just talking about how David Dabb was saying when I first got that, I had to go and get an image professionally rendered, and when I got it back, I actually got in touch with the guy that performed the rendering, and I went mental at him, and I'm like, mate, you can't go doing this. I was like, this is not your own personal art project. I'm like, this is an official NASA photograph which is going out to the public. And the guy said to say to me, no, that's actually the rendering process that's taking place. He says there's only so much you can do before you start making it up. He says there's a fine line. He says, but that's the true representation of what's in that image. And my jaw hit the floor, and that was me. And I had trouble quantifying that for quite a while. But I ended up getting a second opinion done, and the second opinion came back, and it was the exact same thing that I'd been given off the first one. So I repeated the experiment under different conditions, and I got it back, and it was just mind-blowing. And as I say, now I'm quite comfortable with it, because I've been sitting on top of this now for 5 months, 6 months come December. So it's an everyday occurrence for me, but I still have trouble with it, but I still find it now I find it fascinating. But I'm sure that when I put it out come December, that everybody else out there is going to have trouble with it, especially NASA, ESA, and SETI, the Pentagon. So we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, as I say, I've no idea what's going to happen after that. But I feel I've played out my role in life. Once I get this book out, I'll be quite happy to retire for ufology.
I don't think you. I don't think you will.
I think ufology's going to have to retire after release.
Now, what's the title of this book going to be, James? I think you told me once before.
What's the
title of this book going to be?
This new one is going to be Corroborated Evidence, the Discovery of the Millennium.
Yeah, because your previous one was Corroborating Evidence, wasn't it? Corroborating
Evidence, yeah. So yeah, I just thought, we'll just go with Corroborated, because it's a full deal now. As I say, I didn't realise for all the years that I was studying blue, white, oval UFOs, I was actually looking at a big spotlight on one of these big triangular things, and I've not realised that for years. So it's now when that hit me in June, I was able to join all the dots and connect all sorts of stuff together, and it's going to be quite a package that I'm putting out this year. So basically, I'm opening Pandora's box and I'm letting the cat out of the bag. So and that's it. Book finished.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be one to look out for, and I guess it will be on Amazon, won't you, James?
I'm hoping to get it up on Amazon Kindle Direct, but again, I'm going to try and get it done as a print on demand.
Right. Okay.
But I've no idea what the costing is going to be at the moment. I think it's going to be somewhere up there in the region of maybe 30 quid, maybe 40.
As much as that? Oh, right. It's going to be quite a big...
I don't know. I'm not too sure. Until such times, I'm going to be getting in touch with HarperCollins again to see if they're still interested in it. They gave me some initial interest earlier on in the year. But if they're going to take it on, then brilliant. I don't need to worry about costings too much by printing. Because it is, there's maybe 50 images in this book. Because there's so much breakdowns going on with images and interpretations and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very visual book with a lot of imagery. So, but and a lot of information packed into it as well. So I'm hoping that I've done a good enough job trying to condense and trying to convey the path it took me to Adam.
I mean, I'm glad I brought you two together because I thought it's been very, very interesting.
I like talking more about Egypt maybe sometime with you, because otherwise I don't want to go into too much on air. But yeah, I mean, another thing I discovered this year was the Scarab Beetle, and I realised that it appeared to me to represent an opposing magnetic current. So I think there was more symbology. There's you know yourself, there's so many levels of symbology going on with Egyptian hieroglyphs, but there's also a language that's there on every single temple in Egypt, that's there for everybody to see, and they cannot see it, and it's a technological language. And it's right there in front of everybody, and it's back to what you were saying about keeping all this quiet. And but there's definitely a technological language expressed in Egypt and Mayan as well. And as I say, I think they had electricity going way back. They were a lot more organised than we're told, you know.
I mean, hieroglyphs are not just visual; they're touch. When you touch a hieroglyph, it is passing information to your energetic field. So most people make the mistake of just looking. You know, when you talk about electricity, that's extremely important, because you know, with electricity, you know, these ancient races were able to implode electricity on themselves and become sort of a conscious black hole and move from one point of the universe to the other, and they were doing that by electricity. When you look at Genesis to Revelation, Genesis is the genitals, where the body electric begins, and the Revelation is when it gets to the mind, and it reveals ancient secret knowledge. So Genesis to Revelation is basically relating from the beginning of the journey to the end, which is the Exodus of Moses. So all of these things, you know, are very, very secret. The one thing I'm picking up with your book, James, is the one thing that's going to annoy people is the very fact that it's going to make them realise how far behind they are in terms of the information that they're putting out, because what they're doing is they're all arguing amongst themselves within lower circles. And when a new level of information comes out, it makes them realise just how far behind, you know, the race they really are. There's one, every single community, you know, whether it's UFO, whether it's paranormal, whether it's ancient, whether it's religious, whatever, there's always the groups of people within these communities that believe that they have all the answers and they know everything. And when it's pointed out to them that they don't, or perhaps they don't, that's when they start getting a little bit of annoyance with you. There's one example where my wife and I went to Birmingham City Centre because we wanted to do a video on the impact of everywhere you look, everything you do, everything you see when you go to these shopping malls is advertisements, literally everywhere you look. And, you know, we went into the psychology and the subconsciousness of that as well, but we decided we wanted a song on that video. And because we were talking about advertising, we chose, not because we liked the song, but it matched. You know, we sang, we had Robbie Williams' Advertising Space, that song, because we were talking about advertising space, and it was the perfect match for the video. David Icke got hold of it and put it onto his newsletter. So, of course, within hours, there was thousands and thousands of views. And what was everybody arguing over? Not the message. They were arguing over Robbie Williams and who liked him and who didn't. Now, these are so-called enlightened people.
Yeah.
And they completely missed the message, and they were arguing over Robbie Williams being crap or Robbie Williams being great. Now, everybody's arguing within circles, and one thing that your book will do, James, is just show them how far off the pace they really are. So, yes, you know, the ancient thing is my thing. The downloaded information that I get about and piece together a complete blueprint of the whole of the ancient world and off-planet civilizations. And it is really a treasure to know these things. So whatever you know, you have a duty to put out there, and if people don't like it, well then tough. That's not that's theirs.
I mean, just what you're saying there, what was it, just what you're saying about being it and advertising and all that. This is pretty much, I'll give you a little introduction to the start of my new book, and it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, I make no bones about it. I've stole this. I've completely lifted it for another guy, but I'll credit the guy for it. So he's well known. It's Irvin Welsh, the guy that done Trainspotting. So I've, it was inspired by him. So it's called UAP Spotting, and it goes like this. Choose to accept there's no corroborated evidence that aliens exist and are visiting Earth. Choose to sleep, consume, reproduce, pay taxes and obey. Choose to be distracted. Choose to remain in ignorance. Choose to be uneducated. Choose to accept what you're being told. Choose to accept excuses like lens flares, reflections, space debris and ice crystals. Choose to believe SETI, NASA and ESA. Choose to believe they've found no evidence of life in the universe. Choose if it's going to be 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years before they announce that they found microbes. Choose to believe the UAPTF conclusions in the Pentagon Report. Choose to believe we're the only ones out there in the expanse of the cosmos. Choose to believe that it's too far for aliens to get here. Choose to believe the night vision scope of a triangle that the US Navy confirmed is real, of a commercial airliner is of a genuine UFO. Choose to believe SETI director Jill Tarter when she says finding aliens will be like holding a mirror up to ourselves and seeing ourselves looking back. Choose to believe SETI astronomer Seth Shostak when he says there is no conspiracy to keep secrets in science. I chose not to accept the word of the British Ministry of Defence, ESA, NASA, SETI, the US Navy, the UAPTF or the Pentagon Report. I chose something else. I chose to study this subject for myself. So that's
amazing. Someone once said to me when I was talking about, if you ever wish to come across opposition, tell people in a Christian arena that Christ never existed. Try telling people in ufology about the Anunnaki story is fraud. If you want to come up against some resistance, but somebody once said to me that you're a bit arrogant, aren't you? So everybody's been brought up on a lie except for you. I said, no, I was brought up on the same lie, but I saw through it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm not publishing this year. I'm going to hold it back for another book, but I'll send you over and let you have a look at it. As I say, I found it fascinating, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, you never know. Maybe in a few months' time we'll get you both back on again once your books come out, and we can discuss what's actually been put out by you. And also, Michael, you've got a book that's just come out recently as well, haven't you?
Well, I'm sort of writing two simultaneously, but I started them 12 months ago, and I've since sort of found out that the books that I started with will not be the books that I end with, because the information so thick and fast and deep that it's taking it in a sort of direction. So we'll have to sort of wait and see in relation to that. But we all face the you're going to burn in hell from the love, the love of Christ, people. Yeah. So just yourself down.
So there you go.
Yeah, I'll be a wanted man after this. I'm going to be Salman Rushdie or Ufology.
So you'll both be facing your own demons anyway soon. So.
Aye, totally, man. Bring them on. This is that.
Right.
Yeah, the word demon means genius. So
there you go. Think of a word. Give it to Michael, and he'll give you the answer.
I wrote at the start of this book as well that it's usually scientific geniuses that make all these discoveries. So basically, I guess I broke the mould. I'm like, wait a minute,
you must be a genie. Genius.
Oh, that's where that. Yeah, there's another one.
As I say, when I found out what I had my hands on, I broke down and cried. I broke down. I literally broke down in tears, and I was just overwhelmed with what I realised that I now had in my hands and what I had to do. I was in tears. I was just like, oh my God, this is how me of all people. This is all I could think was me of all people over 20 years I've had, and then I've had this information out for like 9 years. It's been online. Nobody's followed up on it. Nobody followed up on it. Other people did follow up on it initially, but they never get anywhere close to where I was. And this has sat for all these years, and I've been able to go back now and follow up on my own research. And people have had ample opportunity to do this over all these years. So this is what I can't understand, is why it was me, ultimately it was me that found this, and I just find that I've been chosen. So there's a role in it somewhere. There has to be some sort of methodology to all of this. And
you have been chosen. You've been directed to it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have found it. And the most difficult question people ever ask me, but it's a good one, is how do you piece it together? Where do you get the information from? Because trying to explain to someone that you get a download where you have an answer, a question, and the answer in the same bubble, in the same second, and it's extremely difficult to explain that to someone of how you've been able to piece everything together. It's difficult to explain to someone that can't imagine that, you know, you get images, you get flashes, you get questions and answers in the same second. It's very, very difficult to explain. Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way I put it to my sister earlier on this year when I was like, look, I says, I'm getting things put in my head, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what? Images, just pictures, just flashing, images, just rapid. Boom, 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 boom. And I says to her, I felt as if I got a whole history of humanity thrown at me this year. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? But again, you talking about Anunnaki and all that, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, all of it, every single bit of it is legit. It's all real. And there's so much more that I've branched into this year that I've not covered in this book, because I want to be taken seriously with regards to this particular investigation, and leave the other stuff, leave the cuckoo stuff aside, maybe for another book, you know, once I get the time to do that. But again, as I say, it's some of the stuff that's just cuckoo. You're just like, whoa, you know. As I said, like you said, downloads and answers and questions in the same moment. I mean, I was able to find something that's invisible. Do you know what I mean? How can that's, and again, what you're saying is trying to explain that to somebody is hard. So this is why I've put this book together, to say, look, I need to have had to explain it all. It might sound really mundane to the reader, but as far as I'm concerned, I've done a good job of spelling out exactly how I was able to do all this, so I can be taken. You know, maybe people get a much clearer image of where I'm coming from. It's not just a case of me pointing to something and saying that's that and that's it. You know, I've got a whole methodology behind it. So we'll wait and see how it's received later this year.
What you do is you set a new height for the bar, and the people who are ready to jump that height will jump that height. But unless you set something that is higher, then people have nothing to aspire to or rise to. But that is how you advance, by, you know, going outside your comfort zone, by jumping higher than you've ever jumped before. But somebody has to go there first and reset the height of the jump, and that's what a lot of these, you know, esoteric books are doing. Some of the things that I write about, some of the things that I put, especially, you know, you can pinpoint a change in frequency, a change in information and the depth of information. You can pinpoint it to seconds, to minutes, to days, to weeks, and I can distinctly know when there's been a change, when something has changed, when something is coming back at a deeper level. And some of the things that I write and say, there's not many people really that can keep up with what I'm saying. There's only really, when I've really gone into depth, there's only one person that's ever been able to keep up as a host, and that was Richard C. Hoagland. He was obviously the man who geometrically mapped Sidonian City. He's the only person who's been able to keep up. Out of all the hundreds and hundreds of radio shows that I've done, there's only one person that's ever kept up, and that was him.
Right. Has he's quite intense with his talks, isn't he? He just opens his mouth and he's like, oh, he's brilliant.
No,
it's good. No, I remember I read the Hancock book on Cydonia, Message on Mars or whatever it was called. I'm not too sure. And that was a good book. That was very interesting about all the geometry and all that was going on over there. And it just pointed to something else, you know. It's like there was definitely something going on a much more a larger cosmological scale than just Earth, you know. And it's not just I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, science is coming to conclude now that Mars was Earth-like at one point, you know. There's no doubt about it now. They're quite happy to say, look, just give us millions and millions of dollars and we'll send astronauts to Mars to crack open rocks and we'll find microbes and then we'll discover there's life elsewhere in the universe. And my book is there to basically potentially save astronauts' lives. That's the way I'm looking at it. I'm going, well, if I publish this, I mean, you know, it might save a few astronauts getting up there and cacking it, you know. So, but you never know. My book could potentially be saving lives, and that can only be a good thing. So, if NASA want to look at the downside, then they can remember that, and hopefully that'll keep their chin up, you know. But as I say, I'm putting this out. I'm terrified, but I'm really excited, and I just know it's got to be done. I mean, it's just one of the ones, you know. Don't push a button. Don't push a button. Don't push a button. You're just like, I want to push that button, you know. So I can't wait to just, you know, release a bomb bay doors and off it goes, and it's no my responsibility anymore, you know. And then I can go and find a fallout shelter.
But then you got to come back with the other book, Jim.
That's I can send my fallout, my bunker. My bunker.
Yeah, you have to put. As I say, you've got to stick your head out of the bunker to go and bring the other book out.
I know. God, man. Oh, got myself into trouble last time we made bunker jokes, eh?
Anyway, I think we better leave it there because we're going to get a bit silly there, aren't we? Better talk about bunkers and things. And anyway, it's been great talking to you both. Thanks for coming on, and I hope you both got something out of that. I did, you know, always do. But I hope you enjoyed it, Michael. Did you?
I enjoyed it. It's different. It's a different interview, but yes, there's information that I'm not aware of.
I hope it was different in a good way.
It's different in a good way. It's different because there's more contributors. So yes, you always get. If you speak to somebody that knows something you don't, then it only adds to you.
That's right,
and that's a good thing.
Totally, yeah, man. Nice one. No, it's been nice, and I appreciate having us be talk with you tonight because you're reminding me that. See, this is the thing. I've been that cooped up on me for that long writing this book that I'm forgetting about the wider world out there, and you know all these other things that are going on out there. So it'll be nice to rejoin the world soon enough and hopefully get a bit of positive energy my way, and because it'll be nice, you know. But as I say, I've got Christmas wrapped up for everybody this year, and I'm just hoping that it goes the way it's meant to go. But if it doesn't, it's only more proof that we're all being smothered and shepherded.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find it will be that way, but hopefully, enough people will get, support you and get it out there. I'll do my best, as I always do.
Well, this is that. This is the thing as well. I mean, I'm only the one guy, but again, the likes of like your David Icke or your Richard Poulin, you never know who's going to pick this up and go, wow, you know what I mean, and maybe take it somewhere else. I mean, I've been trying to speak to James Fox about it and say, look, Jamesy, your next bloody documentary, do you know what I mean? Get yourself over to Glasgow, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I think that's the next big thing is there's going to be a documentary done, and I'm looking forward to getting that out. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm counting my eggs in one basket here, you know.
Before they're hatched.
We'll get the book out, and if the book's a success, and maybe people might want to know more about UFO sightings, and there might be a documentary further down the line.
Yeah.
But I'll just be happy to get the book out and just to be finally done with endless formatting and editing, and just the closer it's getting to Christmas, the more panicky I'm getting. But I know I've got it covered. I just need to relax and breathe and try and not do everything at once. So, and I'm going to bear in mind what Michael's saying tonight with the cat, with vibrations, man. I'm cuddling into my cat, man. He's pulling away. But yeah, so good vibes, Michael. Good vibes. I'm going, as I say, I'm going to try and not be too terrified about what's going to happen, because you can't spend your whole life worrying about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? What will happen. So yeah, we'll wait and see where it goes. But everything happens for a reason, as I say.
Well, it's been my pleasure to introduce you to each other anyway, and hopefully your communications will carry on.
Totally.
And it's been a great pleasure having you on, and I suppose we better pull the plug now and let you both go.
No,
I'm going to go to bed in a minute.
You know, talk.
Thank you. I'll be calling you Cilla Black from now on.
Anyway, thanks for gentlemen for coming on. Thanks, Michael.
It's been lovely talking.
And thanks, James.
Lovely talking to you, Michael.
Yeah.
You take it easy, and I'll catch you soon.
Thank you.
Both take care of yourself. Yeah. Cheers. Good night. Thank you out for listening, everybody. Right, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is fortnightly on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.